Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend and had a wonderful day, of course, to kickstart this market. We see bullishness across the whole market with Palantir Technologies included. The momentum is still continuing to rise, up about another 2 to 3% on the day, including the after hours, and crossing over that $29 mark. The question is, and it's becoming more of a probable question, is when are we going to be knocking on the $30 door? Because that is only a few trading sessions away if this momentum continues to rise and we see an acceleration in buying pressure, market value, and also being correlated with the expectation of interest rate cuts. In addition, we're going to be talking about big things happening across the market. Dan Ives from Webush comes and reiterates a bullish prediction for Q2 earnings for Palantir. We're going to be talking about that. We also see NVIDIA analysts continuing to raise their price targets, even though we're seeing kind of consolidation. That's not necessarily a bad thing for how fast NVIDIA has grown. And we're going to be talking about Broadcom a little bit. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. And of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Pop it up on the screen here. What we see, Palantir Technologies closing here at the market 28.67 at 28.80 right now with the after hours. Now, trading volume has been holding relatively consistent at about that 40 to 50 million. One bullish thing that I do like to see here, we see a flip from daily short volume that actually has fallen compared to Friday's trading session, which at least tells me in the short term that we're seeing some of these larger positions and even institutional investors that are switching to more of a bullish type of theory and position, and we see Palantir with the price being reflected in that. Now, what we see, of course, we've talked about this, the cup and handle bullish setup. We've seen weekly charts in terms of bullish setups. Things are looking very good on a technical basis. And if we couple that with some of the news that we got today regarding Webush here and also with Q2 earnings that is predicted about August 7th. We don't have the official date yet, but with earnings that is now only going to be a few weeks away, this is going to come fast, guys. We see a lot of momentum that's continuing behind this whole AI rally and Palantir being a very strong competitor within this industry. What Dan Ives talks about here is saying that this is definitely a stock to watch, talking about how Palantir really has been on a winning streak. And despite that, it's 66% year-to-date gains over the past year and its dynamic reach, it really has a lot of the majority of analysts right now that rate it as a whole. Now, the reason this is because of the crazy valuation that we see behind PLTR. The 12-month price target you can see right here for the forecast for these analysts for 13 different ratings across the board is 22.55, and they're using a lot of valuation is basically one of the main pieces of justifications. However, what we see with Webush right here, they're seeing higher growth metrics for other stocks and trading at different types of levels. And what's happening with PLTR, that it is continuing to ride this rally, and this trajectory that it does have behind it right now suggests that it's going to continue trending upward, especially with earnings here in the near future. And what we're seeing here is why it matters is that Palantir still trades at less than $30 per share. And that could also be wrong here in a few days if it goes above 30, but that is really substantially lower than a lot of the most dominant AI peers. And I could agree with that. We're talking about NVIDIA. We're talking about Microsoft. Some of the big Magnificent Seven stocks that are getting involved into AI, the big chip makers that are getting involved into AI. Palantir is relatively cheap compared to what those other stocks are trading at, regardless of the fundamentals and the valuation behind Palantir. And what this really does show for a lot of investors is just kind of a general attractiveness if they want to get a piece of the AI pie. Let's take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, MooMoo. Now, MooMoo is your one-stop trading app that offers free commission trading along with very powerful investment tools, making it easier for you to make those confident decisions within the market. Right now, new users can sign up utilizing my welcome bonus down in the description, and you can get up to 8.1% limited time APY on uninvested cash and up to 15 free stocks with a deposit. You also can get up to a $300 transfer in bonus. So you do not want to miss out on those rewards. Make sure you check out MooMoo down in the description. Back to the video. But one thing that we are seeing is that Palantir is really working to develop not only in the commercial side of things, but with the credibility that they built up in the governmental contracts, we're seeing an expansion of both and growth with both. And that's one thing that's really been keeping me bullish for Palantir, because we're seeing the acceleration and really, in terms of the commercial side of things, what AIP has done. Earnings per share estimates is at 8 cents, and we also have that's going to be correlated with the revenue estimate. I have about 652 million. One thing I particularly do like, and I really do like for this upcoming quarterly earnings report, is that the earnings per share revisions we see here in the last 90 days, we have 7 in the bullish direction and 2 in the bearish. Now, in the last several quarters, we've only seen bullish earnings per share revisions. And after they changed their guidance in the last earnings report, and that's what we saw, a little bit of a sell-off and correction for Palantir Technologies, they were showing realism and kind of being upfront. And I liked the trustworthiness that Palantir was putting into in terms of transparency. We see Wall Street that is kind of reacting to that and agreeing with that. And that's why we're seeing valuation as a big justification for, going to a sell rating or a hold rating, which everybody's entitled to their own opinion, of course. But this is important as Palantir doesn't keep having this bar that they need to try to fulfill that's almost unrealistic in terms of milestone and quarter, achievements. That is a big proponent on why I think Palantir is going to have a successful next quarter. Now, coupling that with what's been happening in the market, we still have the major indexes that are basically always pushing these new historical highs. The market's been at all-time highs right now, and this has really been correlated with the part by expectations that inflation is slowing. We've seen this in CPI data reports, and we've seen the trend now, which is what the Fed wants to see, that we're seeing lower inflation percentages every single month. And we've been starting to see this trend. This is becoming a higher probability to convince the Federal Reserve here to ease interest rates soon. Depending on the source, we're sitting at about a 70 to an 80% chance that we're going to see those first decrease in inflation, interest rates come September, and that same about 70 to 80% chance that we're going to see at least 2 interest rate cuts by the end of the year. Now, of course, with some of the events that happened this previous weekend, we all know what we're talking about. We've seen a lot of volatility coming into particular stocks, coming into crypto, and a lot of tension is across right now the world, and of course, things are getting pretty heated. With that, you can see volatility that will still continue to increase. And we saw a little bit of that, especially with Bitcoin today. We saw a lot of volatility coming into these individual different stocks. What we do see with NVIDIA, saying here investors are cautious, but staying bullish, we're seeing price targets that are continuing to be increased. We see here Matthew Ramsey here talking about going to 165 from 140. Benchmark reiterating their buy rate up to its price target to 170 from 135, and think that would be at $100 or $1,700 before the 10-for-1 stock split. But what we're seeing is a little bit of a cooling off in NVIDIA. That's not necessarily a bad thing, like I said, with the amount of percentage increase that we've seen with just this particular individual stock. Cooling off is not a bad thing, especially as these price targets are still continuing to be raised higher. And NVIDIA stock analysts, they're all basically expecting a solid Q2 report. We've seen some raw data that has been released that shows that sales are doing very well and continuing to point in the upside. And that's where I talk about my last thing here before we finalize the video. Is Broadcom a better stock split than NVIDIA? And what we do see with Wall Street and coming together here, they do say, look at how successful NVIDIA has been. And even now with the 10-for-1 stock split, each share is cheaper and it looks more attractive just from a price perspective. But what analysts are really thinking about Broadcom is they also went through a 10-for-1 stock split and have not really experienced, the explosion that NVIDIA has had. And I'm not trying to say every stock, of course, is going to be trading the same, but why it's kind of viewed more favorable is because they say here, NVIDIA has become a victim to its own success, just due to its acceleration of the stock up more than 160% here in just 2024 alone. Impressive gains, nearly 240% last year. But Broadcom is basically doesn't have that momentum that we've seen behind it. Of course, we've seen bullishness in the price. The valuation isn't exactly cheap, just like Palantir, but looking at other stocks that are getting involved with AI and different ones that have the potential to really have their NVIDIA type moment. And that's really the question that I want to know for you guys. And let's talk about it down in the discussion. When do you think Palantir is going to have in its NVIDIA type moment? And do you see $30 here in the next few days? I want to know what all your thoughts are. Thank you guys so much for watching. Great to be back for the week. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.